Hopeless is a really special song to me because I've always loved the phrase that you're a hopeless romantic, that there's something so fine and honourable about being hopeless if it's for a good reason. So I really like the idea that being hopeless is actually great. And, you know, it's always teachers who call you hopeless. And it's, you know, your parents will call you hopeless when you do something that they don't like. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's bad. They just don't like it, you know. Oh, you're hopeless. You just won't stop painting abstract things. Why don't you paint some fruit? You're hopeless. You know, and it's just, it's a really nice, very British phrase. And for me, that Hopeless, the song, is very much about having people around me saying, you know, what are you doing? Get a job. You're wasting your time. And it's just this, it is a proper, literal hopelessness where there's nothing you actually can't change it, because it's just a complete compulsion, where, for me it was anyway, where you don't actually have a choice. You've just got to do it, because otherwise, what do? There's nothing else to do. I've got the most enormous rose-tinted glasses you've ever seen. So ask me about anything and I'll be like, oh no, it was great. It was brilliant. I really enjoyed it. And then you'll speak to someone I knew and they'll be like, you were having a nightmare. But my memory of it is that I enjoyed the ride. I enjoyed the journey. And I very much enjoyed being a musician. I also remember finding it very difficult to call myself a musician because I was on the dole, and I felt that unless I was actually making a living from it, I mean, I'd never ever call myself a writer. It'd be so pretentious to call myself a writer when in fact I was on the dole, pretending to be a writer. So until it was, you know, there had to be a recognition, not just from people enjoying it, but from people I knew, from my family and from friends, that that I was actually progressing as a writer. I wasn't just a dolie with a diary. Do you know what I mean? The time of the most friction emotionally for me was getting a record deal, because it was actually a fantastic experience getting my publishing. And if you're a writer and a performer, you're kind of treated as two separate entities by the music industry, where you'll get a deal for your writing and you'll also get a deal for your performing, you know, your record deal and your publishing deal. So I thought, okay, that sounds good. I'll get my publishing deal. And I'd met my manager, Simon Banks, when I was 19, playing upstairs at the Garage in London, and I was a student at Royal Holloway out in Egham. And I didn't even know anyone knew about me or was coming to see me, and he was there and working as an A&R scout at the time. And he saw me play there, got my number, and called me every 6 months for 6 years, saying, would you A, leave Scotland, B, get rid of your crap band, and C, come and live in London? And I was like, no, no, no. Drove up to Scotland a couple of times, froze his ass off in the spare room and got porridge for breakfast. Finally, nothing was happening for me. Thought, right, I'm 27. I'm going to need to get a job if this doesn't work. So I thought, right, I'm going to get rid of my band because they're a bit crap. Well, they weren't crap. We were just a bit crap as a band. It wasn't working. Got on a train, went to London, managed to get a publishing deal offer for £12,000 that was for everything I'd ever written and everything I was ever going to write. And I thought, wow, 12 grand, man, that's a lot of money. And I thought, I should maybe phone that guy Simon and just ask him, see what he thinks about it. And I phoned him and he just went, let me help you. And within 3 months I had like Sony, Warner and Chrysalis all bidding against each other, and I was like, wow, really glad I didn't sign for that 12 grand. And then it came to try and get a record deal, which was a bit of a disaster, really. And no one was interested at all. I think it's because Norah Jones had bought absolutely just Moses in the Sea, you know. She'd had this enormous success. And it was partly because all the record labels had just gone, get me a Nora! And they'd all just gone out and signed a bunch of female singer-songwriters. And also that I was too old. I was, quote, the wrong side of 25. Obviously horrendously haggard, walked in with a stick. There was a slight hump forming on my back. And they just didn't see how that was going to work commercially, So, one label, Relentless, said, we don't care. We don't care that you look like someone's gran. We're going to sign you anyway. And that was the obvious thing to do, was to go with the label who loved the music. Thank God someone was into the music and just said, yeah, let's go for it. I think everybody probably has their break moment. And mine was Nas's father getting a cold. And it was Nas, the rapper's dad, was playing trumpet on his single and got flu or something. So Nas cancelled on later with Jules Holland. And the scouts, the two great girls who go around looking for bands, called my manager and said, cancellation, does she want it? He was like, yes, I think so. And that was it. That was the first time I'd ever been on telly. It was the first time anybody, the public at large, had heard anything. The album wasn't out. The single, not only was the single not out, but I played Black Horse and the Cherry Tree, and that wasn't on the album. It was a new song that I developed with my new loop pedal, and they said, that's you've got to play that. It's brilliant. And I was going, it's not on the album. They were like, it doesn't matter. Just go and play it. And so the first 10,000 copies of Eye to the Telescope have my Jules Holland performance audio on it, because we hadn't recorded a single. And it was the first time the song had ever been recorded, was on the telly, which is ridiculous. And I'd been doing this in coffee shops for 6 weeks. I did a coffee shop tour of Scotland with this pedal. And so it just wasn't, no one had gone mental when I was doing it in coffee shops. And it just went mental. All the people who were at the show were clapping a lot, like Anita Baker and Jackson Browne and Robert Smith, and then it just started to come in waves and waves of people going, I can't believe you did that on the television live. And I'm going, really? And then a year or so later, when we took the album over to the States, exactly the same thing happened again. It was the Today Show, which I didn't even know what it was. Turns out it's like a breakfast show to millions of people. And it was my day off, and Simon said, look, it would be really good if we could just go in and see the booking guy at the Today Show. And I was like, Simon, it's my day off, I'm exhausted. I was like, oh, come on, let's do this Today thing, whatever it is. And we went in, and I just got up in the room and played this guy a song. And he said, oh, that's great, Katie, why don't you come back and play for us on Friday? And I was like, wicked, that's great. And everyone else is just going, and going, and they said afterwards that, it never happens. They usually book people a month in advance, and, it was just a big deal for them. And so I went on at horror o'clock in the morning on the Today Show, sounding like this, like I'd been on the Woodbines, and just nailed it, and in a painfully bright red dress, and it just happened again. I've got to respect the pedal now. It's done much more for me than I ever imagined, and it's always going to be very intrinsically linked to Black Horse. So in other songs I might use it, but it's quite secondary. But it's a special wee thing.